Hey boys and girls, so I'm going to make a video of last night's homework because a couple of you had a little bit of a struggle with it. So this first page we did together and it was fine, but it was here, these couple pages that I want to go over with you. So for 8A through H, it says circle the smallest number in each set. So I rewrote these so that you could see them better. I'm going to put that. So I just rewrote this right here. So looking at this first one, you can see that this has a whole number of 4 and this has a whole number of 3. So this one is obviously smaller. That one wasn't too hard. Okay, this is where it got a little bit more difficult. So we have 10 and 2/10, or 10 and 199 thousandths. So what I taught you was, see how there's 1, 2, 3 digits after the decimal for this one, and there's only 1 digit after the decimal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 more digits, and I could add zeros. You could add as many zeros as you want, and it's still going to be the same number. Now it's easier for me to look at. I'm looking at 200 because they both have 10 the same, so we're not looking at that. So which one's bigger, 200 or 199? Well, 200 is bigger, so this one would be the smaller number because this is 199 thousandths and this is 200 thousandths. So this one has a 1/1000th more. So the next one, again, I rewrote it. This one has 3 digits after the decimal. This one has only 2, so I'm going to put a 0 there. So now they both have 3 digits. The 11s, I'm not going to look at because they're the same. So which one is smaller? Because that's what they're asking for. Is 110 smaller or is 111 smaller? 110 is smaller, so this would be the smaller one right here. For the next one, again, you have 3 decimals after the digit. This one only has 2 decimals after the digit. They both start with 8, so we're not looking at that. But because this has 3 decimals, or 3 digits after the decimal, what did I just say? This has 3 digits after the decimal. We're going to make this one have 3 digits after the decimal. So just add a 0. Now we're going to look at which one's bigger. This number is 10, and this number is 1. So here we have 10 thousandths, and here we have 1 thousandth. So this one is the smaller one, so it would be this one right here. Going on to these, I'll just do a few more. So here, I just wrote them all down, and you can see the most that they have is 3 digits after the decimal. So I'm going to make them all have 3 digits after the decimal. Since they all start with 7, I'm not looking at the 7. I'm just looking at, this, I'm looking at this, and this to see which one is the smallest. So is 150 the smallest, 105, 15, or 100? You can see 15 is the smallest, so this one is the smallest. I'll do one more. Again, I just rewrote it. So I can see I have 3 digits after the decimal, so I make them all have 3 digits. So I only need to add 1 0 here. Or here, I'm going to add, and this one's a little bit tricky. I think they're trying to trick you there. But see how these all start with 0, except for this one? This one's the biggest because this is almost a whole, almost a whole, almost a whole. So it's definitely not that one. So now we're all looking at, they have 3 digits, 0, 0, 0. So I'm going to look at what's the smallest, 980, 988, or 10. This one is the smallest. So there we go. All right, again, down here, arranging the numbers in decreasing order. So that means they're going down from big to small. That's what decreasing means. So we're going to do just like what we did up here. I can see that this one has 3 digits after the decimal. So I'm going to make them all have 3 digits after the decimal. Okay, now they all do. They all start with 8, so I'm not looking at that. So I'm just looking at this, this, and this. So which one is the biggest? 808, 80, 880, or 88? Well, 880 would be the biggest, so that's number 1. And then 808 would be the next biggest, that's number 2. And then the next biggest would be 88, and then 80 would be the smallest. I'll do one more here. So you can see I have 3 digits. Come on in. I have 3 digits after the decimal. I'm going to make them all have 3 digits. Now I'm not looking at the 3 because they're all the same. If they were different, then that would tell us right away like which one's the biggest or smallest because it's just a whole number. All right, so now I'm looking at 200, 190, 196, and 25. So we're starting with the biggest number. So that would be, we have 290. So that would be, this one is the biggest. 200 is the biggest. Then 196 would be next. 190, and then 25 is less. And that's really 3 and 25 thousandths. Remember, it's 3 and then you say the number. This number is 25, and it ends in the thousandths place. So you say 3 and 25 thousandths. This one, it looks like this. This, we would say 3 and 2, say the number 2. Now, what place value does it end in? The tenth, so it's 3 and 2 tenths. This one right here, it's ending in the hundredth spot. So we would say 3 and 19, you say the number, 19 hundredths, because it's ending in the hundredth spot. Now it says express each fraction as a decimal. Well, we learned that in order, we're switching all of these over to tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. And then once we do that, we can easily, this would be 1 over, this would be 2 over, and this would be 3 over. So I'm going to try to switch this denominator over to 10, 100, or 1,000. Well, I can see that 5 easily goes over to 10. So 5 times what is 10? 5 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. So this is the same, 2/5 is the same as 4 tenths. Now to write 4 tenths as a decimal, you could put the 0 there if you want, but it's 0.4, so 0.4, which is 4 tenths, 0 and 4 tenths. This one I'm going to skip for a second, it's harder. For this one, we have 1 and 7 tenths. I just said it, now I can just write it. So it's 1 and 7 tenths. This is in the tenth spot. It's tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So this one I'll do first over this one. So remember, I have to switch it over to tenths, hundredths, or thousandths. Well, 4 can't go into 10, but 4 can switch over to 100. So I'm going to switch 1/4 over to 100. And I know that 4 times 25 is 100. And so 1 times 25 is 25. And also 1/4 is always 25%, or a quarter of a clock, a circle. So this fraction, or this fraction is this is worth 0.25 because it's over to the 100. So it would be 4 and 25 hundredths because it ends in the hundredth spot. So this one was more difficult. 8 can't go into 10. 8 can't go into 100. So hopefully you would have tried 8 into 1,000. Can 8 switch over to 1,000? And if you used a calculator, you would have seen yes, it can switch over to 100 or to 1,000 if you multiply by 125. So if you multiplied here to get there, then 5 times 125, I think it came out to be something like 625, I think. And then to write that as a decimal, the decimal is going to be, there's 3 zeros, so you're going to go decimal, and then you have, it's in the thousandths, so it's going to have 3 dots, 3 digits over. This is the thousandths place, so it's 0 and, say the number, 625 thousandths because it ends in the thousandth spot. That one's really tricky, and I feel like I didn't explain it that well, but I'll keep working on that with you guys. Because I know that they do 8s once in a while in other homework and in the workbook. Okay, the last one, we're just switching it from a decimal to a fraction. So this right here is 1 is the whole number. Now we have this. This means 6. It's in the tenths spot, so it would be 6 tenths. They want it in simplest form, so it's really 1 and 3/5 because they both divide by 2. This one, it's over into the hundredth spot. It's over twice. So another way you could think of, what's going to be in the hundredth, so 100 is going to be down here. Or you could think the number of spaces over, it's the number of zeros it's going to have down here. So now, what is this number right here? It's just the plain old number 8. You don't have to put the 0 in front of it. So now all we have is 8 over 100, and we just reduce it. They both divide by 4, so that becomes 2/25. For this one, 3 is the whole number. Now this is 3 and 45 hundredths. So 45 hundredths, because it ends in the hundredth spot. Or you could think it's 2 spots over, so it gets 2 zeros. Now you just divide them both by 5, and we got 3 and 9/20. And then the last one, the whole number was 5. Now this is over, it ends in the thousandths place. So your answer is going to have, it's 3 digits over, so it's going to have 3 zeros on bottom. Or you could think it's tenths, hundredths, thousandths, so it's going to be in the thousandths, however you like to think about it. And then just say this number. This number is 2. But then this reduces to 5. They both divide by 2, and 1 over 500. So that was yesterday's homework for those who needed a little refresher on it. And then here is tonight's homework. It says round each of the following to the nearest whole number. So you're going to think of like this right here, $3.42. We don't want any cents. We don't want any coin. We just want the nearest dollar. So you always look, you start at the decimal and look at the ones right here. Now look to the right of it. Can this 4 bump up that 3 to $4? No, because remember, if it's 5 or higher, it bumps up. And if it's 4 or lower, it just stays the same. So this 4 can't bump up the 3, so this would just be a plain old 3. And we don't need to put the decimal there. We've talked about that in class. It's just an invisible decimal. So for this one, I'm going to look at the 1 spot. They don't want any of these decimals after the number. So can this 4 bump up the 0? No, it cannot. So it just stays the same, and it's 200. There'll be no decimals. This one, I'm going to look at the 1 spot. Can this 3 bump up the 2? No, it cannot. So it stays the same, and it's just 32 kilometers. Okay, for this one, look at the 1 spot. Uh-oh, why am I frozen? Something just happened. To 0 or $1. It's closer to $1 because the 8, it's 5 or higher, so the 8 would bump that 0 up to a 1 and just 1 liter. So here we have 18.6 or 18 6/10 of a liter. They don't want any decimals, so you just underline that 1 spot. Now look to the right of it. Can the 6 bump up the 8? Yes, it bumps it up to 19 liters. And then you can do the rest there. Now this one, they say round each of the following to 1 decimal place. You're just going to have 1 decimal place in your answer. And that's the one you're going to underline. You're going to underline that first decimal place. So they only want 1 decimal place in the answer. I'm going to underline the first decimal place, which is the 2, the 0, the 4, the 6, the 7, and the 0. Now, for each of those, you're going to look to the right of it. Can this 3 bump up the 2? No, it's less than 4, so it's the 2 stays the same, and you just get rid of that. So your answer is 0.2. It only has 1 decimal spot in your answer. So for this one, we underline the first decimal space. Now, can the 7 bump up the 0? Yes, it can. So it's going to become 4.1. Here's the first decimal place. Can the 5 bump up the 4? Yes, it can. So it becomes 5. And that changes to 5.5. Try to do the rest on your own. And then this one says round each of the following to the second decimal place. So you're going to be underlining the second decimal place in all of these. And then you look to the right of that and you see if it rounds up. So this is the second decimal place. Our answer will have only 2 decimal places in it, 2 decimal digits or digits after the decimal. So I look, can the 6 bump up the 4? Yes, it does because it's higher than 5. So this is going to turn to a 5. So it becomes 3.1 and then 5. My answer has only 2 decimal places in it. I'll do another one. I look to the right of what I just underlined. It's 2 decimal places over. 1, 2. Now, can this 2 bump up the 3? No, it cannot. So it stays the same, and it's 8.43. And again, it has only 2 decimal places after it. I'll do one more, and then I'll end. So I have underlined the second decimal place. It's 1, 2. I underlined it. Now look to the right of it. Can this 4 bump up the 5? No, it cannot. So this stays the same, and it's just 1.05. And again, that's 2 decimal places after the decimal. It's 2 digits over. Okay, I hope that helps. Let me know if you need help tomorrow. And how do I stop recording? I don't know.